In the heart of El Salvador, a concrete behemoth casts a long shadow over the landscape. This is Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, or CECOT, a prison unlike any other. Opened in early 2023 under President Nayib Bukele, it stands as a stark symbol of his controversial war on gangs. CECOT was built to house over 40,000 inmates, the majority of whom are alleged members of the notorious MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs. Bukele promised to crush the gangs that have terrorized El Salvador for decades. His solution? A prison designed to break the will of even the most hardened criminals. From the moment an inmate steps inside CECOT, they are stripped of their identity, their dignity, and their hope. This is the story of CECOT, a prison that lays bare the brutal reality of El Salvador's war on gangs. Stepping inside CECOT is like entering a nightmare. The air is thick with the stench of sweat, fear, and despair. Overcrowding is rampant, with cells designed for a handful of inmates cramming in over 150 souls. Basic necessities like food, water, and sanitation are scarce. Inmates often have to fight for scraps, their bodies wasting away from hunger and disease. The constant glare of fluorescent lights ensures that there is no escape, not even in sleep. The guards, clad in black and heavily armed, patrol the corridors with an air of menacing authority. They are the judge, jury, and often executioner within these walls. Their brutality is legendary, with reports of beatings, torture, and even killings commonplace. The silence of men who have been broken speaks volumes about the horrors that unfold within these walls. Behind the cold statistics and the government's triumphant pronouncements lie the shattered lives of thousands of individuals caught in Bukele's dragnet. Men, many young and some allegedly guilty only by association, are ripped from their families and thrown into the abyss of CECOT. Families are left in a state of agonizing limbo, desperate for news of their loved ones. Visits are rare, and communication with the outside world is virtually non-existent. Wives become widows overnight, their husbands swallowed whole by the prison system. Children grow up without fathers, their innocence stolen by a conflict they barely understand. A mother recounts the last time she saw her son, his face bruised and bloodied after a beating from the guards. These are the human faces of Bukele's war on gangs, faces that are too often ignored in the rush to celebrate falling crime rates. These are the stories that expose the true cost of sacrificing human rights in the name of security. The horrors of CECOT extend far beyond the harsh conditions. Reports from human rights organizations paint a grim picture of systematic torture and abuse within the prison's walls. Amnesty International and Cristasol have documented credible allegations of beatings, electric shocks, and sexual abuse. Inmates speak of being subjected to mock executions, of being forced to stand for hours in stress positions, of being denied medical treatment. The death toll within CECOT is staggering, with human rights groups estimating that hundreds of inmates have died since the prison opened its doors. Many of these deaths are attributed to preventable diseases like tuberculosis and pneumonia, a direct result of the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. The stories of torture and death emerging from CECOT are a stain on the conscience of El Salvador. To understand the horrors unfolding within CECOT, one must understand the man who created it. Nayib Bukele, El Salvador's popular yet deeply polarizing president. Bukele, with his slick social media presence and penchant for Bitcoin, projects an image of modernity. Yet beneath the veneer of progress lies an authoritarian streak that has alarmed human rights advocates worldwide. Bukele's war on gangs, launched under the banner of Plan Control Territorial, has undoubtedly yielded results. Homicides, once rampant, have plummeted. The gangs, once a law unto themselves, have been driven underground. But these gains have come at a heavy price, a price paid for in the currency of human rights. Under Bukele's rule, El Salvador has been operating under a state of exception, a legal gray zone that grants the government sweeping powers of arrest and detention. Due process has been suspended, and thousands have been imprisoned without trial, often on flimsy evidence. Bukele, however, remains defiant, dismissing criticisms of his methods as the whining of elites and foreign powers. The human rights abuses occurring within CECOT have not gone unnoticed. International organizations like the United Nations and Human Rights Watch have condemned the conditions within the prison, calling for an end to torture and arbitrary detentions. The United States, a longtime ally of El Salvador, has expressed concern over Bukele's authoritarian drift, with some lawmakers calling for a reassessment of aid to the country. The European Union, a major donor to El Salvador, has also voiced its disapproval, warning that continued human rights violations could jeopardize future aid packages. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights has called for an independent investigation into the deaths within CECOT, but the Salvadoran government has so far refused to cooperate. Despite the growing international pressure, Bukele remains unmoved. He has lashed out at his critics, accusing them of hypocrisy and of interfering in El Salvador's internal affairs. His supporters, many of whom view him as a strong leader who is finally taking on the gangs, have echoed his defiance. The future of El Salvador, a country already scarred by decades of violence, hangs in the balance. The CECOT prison stands as a stark monument to the complexities of El Salvador's war on gangs. While few would argue against the need to combat gang violence and restore security, the methods employed by the Bukele administration raise profound ethical and legal questions. Can a nation truly achieve lasting peace by sacrificing the very principles of human rights that underpin a just society? The debate surrounding CECOT is not merely an academic exercise. It is a real-world dilemma with far-reaching consequences. The international community has a moral obligation to hold El Salvador accountable for its actions. Targeted sanctions against key figures within the Bukele regime, coupled with sustained diplomatic pressure, could force the government to reconsider its repressive policies. Ultimately, the path to a peaceful and prosperous El Salvador lies not in building more prisons or implementing draconian laws, but in addressing the root causes of gang violence: poverty, inequality, and a lack of opportunity.